Hi again, it's Belinda from Bolde Learning, and today I'm going to show you how we can convert an existing PowerPoint presentation into a SCORM-ready file by importing it into Articulate's Storyline. So let's see how we do it. So to get started, I'm going to open up Storyline, and on the left side you will see import. There's a few different things that you can import, including other Storyline files. But I'm going to select Import PowerPoint. Making sure I click Select All, I want to insert it into a new scene. So let's see how accurately this imports in. So the first thing that I notice is that my fonts have not come across. So it's really important that I ensure that those fonts in my document are downloaded onto my PC, so that way Storyline reads them as the fonts from the document. So you can see here that all of the slides have been inserted in the same sequential order that I had in the PowerPoint, which is great. Now, if I right click on, say, these lines here, you'll see that they are not marked as decorative, which means they would show up on an e-reader. So I'd need to go in and double check the alt text on any of those graphical elements that I do not want alt text to be on. In your timeline, you'll see the accessibility toggle. So you can either right click it or you can just select the accessibility toggle on and off to make sure it is removed from the reading order. So I'm just going to go through and check each of the slides now. So there are a couple of random sort of text frames and shapes which I would need to go in and clean up, but it's important to go in and check that what you want to be editable remains editable and everything is looking as it was in the original PowerPoint. So if you don't find yourself very design savvy or tech savvy, but you need to create this online SCORM module for your boss, for your client, for your job, then having a graphic designer format a well-executed PowerPoint document and importing it into Storyline like this is the way to go in order to have not only a visually appealing e-learning module, but one that is functional. So if I go up to the top menu bar and go to preview entire project, I can see how my project looks as is right now before I do any further customization. So the first thing you'll notice is that it is the default modern player and it has the default black background. So I have not customized that as of yet. And you'll see on the far left side, we have the menu and all of the slides say untitled slide because I have not yet named them. The original PowerPoint did not have names on each of the slides. So that's a little tip. If you want that to transfer across, then make sure you have a naming convention for your slides. It's easier to see them untitled in Storyline as opposed to PowerPoint. So here I can easily update those within Storyline. Up the top, you can see the icons for different orientations and devices to preview how the module is currently looking. We can update how the player looks in the player properties. So this is where we can adjust what the colours look like and what player is being used and what our title is. So in this case, I will update the title to match the name of the PowerPoint. So then this will appear in the player preview. Checking where your sidebar is, you can even add a logo in there if this is a branded document. And again, we want to go and update that darker sort of outside of the player, and we can do that in a button where it says Colours and Effects. So again, you'll see the default is dark. We can change that to light, which is what I'm going to do. But if you again have a custom hex number for your brand, you can change that in the custom format. Here is where you can also change the accessibility focus colours and the fonts being used, and also play around a little bit with the previous and next buttons, whether you want them to be an icon and text, icon only, or text only. You can also edit the font and the colours used for closed captions, whether you want them at the bottom of the learning module or at the top as well. So we've changed the color. Now we want to play around with the actual menu, and we can do that in the menu tab in the player properties. And this is where you can decide whether you want it to be a free menu, a restricted or a locked menu, which restricts the learner from skipping through all the way to the end and completing the module. You want to have a little bit of a barrier to prevent them from doing that. So I usually go restricted because that just seems to be the industry standard. So the restricted navigation will mean that the timeline has to finish on that slide before the next button will appear. So let's have a look and see how our player looks now with the color changes, font changes, and navigation updates. In order to meet accessibility requirements for SCORM delivery, we need to be double checking the focus order. So as you click on each item in the focus order, it will highlight on the scene and on the slide. And so you'll be able to see what item in particular and what order it will be read in by the e-reader. So this is where you can move things around, you can delete things that should not be read, and you can update the alt text in the fields there as well. So once you've done all of the edits that you need, it's time to publish a review link so you can get approval, reviews, comments, feedback, whether internally or externally. So you do that by going up to preview and publish. And here we want to publish it to a Review 360 link. You'll see that up top I have quite a few accessibility issues found. So if there's anything that you've missed while you've gone through and edited your whole document, this is where you can review and update and address any of those errors. So when we publish to Review 360, you can either create a new item or publish a version of an existing item. So this is what you would do for versions 2 onwards. And then also I like to tick upload project file to Review 360 just in case somehow my storyline file gets corrupt. At least I have an online version where I can download this. So once published, you'll receive a link there on the screen where you can share that or you can view it straight away. So this is a shareable link that you would generally send to the client or send to people internally, where there's a feedback section over to the right where comments can be written, screenshots can be added, and annotations like circling around something or written notes can go on there, so the developer can then make those appropriate changes, and it's tagged and anchored to that specific slide. So it's quite easy to go through and make the edits and then action those from there. We follow the same process when we want to publish to SCORM. So we go up to preview, publish, and then you will have the same options that will appear. So on the left side, we want to go to LMS, LRS. There's also other options like web, video, and Word, but in this case, we want to do an LMS. So this is where we would select where we want the SCORM zip file to be saved. We have options in there in regard to reporting and tracking, and also the SCORM type, whether it's SCORM or XAPI, SCORM 2004. In reporting and tracking, that is where a unique identifier will be. And you can also update the LMS reporting settings there too. Tracking, we're just setting it to all slides have been viewed, but you can also have, depending on how complex your slides are, you may have results slides in there from quizzes. There may be also triggers in there like complete course, but in this case we don't have anything like that set up, so we'll just go off slides being viewed. This will export a zip file for you to upload into the required LMS. And there you have it. We've converted an existing PowerPoint file into a SCORM-ready format by importing it directly into Storyline. If you like this tutorial and you want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe so you can see our regular content in this industry. Thanks again.